They told her to step back and let the men handle it. She smiled, cracked her knuckles, and made sure every single one of them would remember her name by sundown. Staff Sergeant Maya Torres had spent 6 years proving herself in rooms that were never built for her. She grew up in a small town in Texas, the daughter of a mechanic who taught her that hands do not lie. If you build something right, it works. If you fight something right, it ends. Her father used to say that strength was not about size, it was about who refused to quit first. Maya joined the army at 19. She trained harder than anyone in her platoon, ran longer, carried more, and said less. She earned her place in a specialized combatives unit, one of the few women to ever hold that position. But earning a place on paper and earning respect in a room are two very different battles. On the day everything changed, her unit was preparing for a joint training exercise with a visiting battalion. Reporters were there. Officers were there. And Sergeant First Class Dale Whitfield, a broad-shouldered instructor with 20 years in and a reputation for old-fashioned opinions, decided it was the perfect moment to make a point. The exercise called for a live hand-to-hand combat demonstration. Whitfield looked around the room, scanned past Maya without a second glance, and pointed to 2 of the younger male soldiers. "Let the men handle it," he said, loud enough for the whole room to hear. A few soldiers chuckled. A few looked away, uncomfortable. Maya did not flinch. She had heard versions of that sentence her entire career. In basic training, in selection, in briefing rooms where she was the only woman at the table. She used to let it slide, told herself it was not worth the fight, but this time something in her steadied instead of shrank. She raised her hand and asked to be paired against Whitfield himself. The room went quiet. Whitfield laughed it off at first, told her this was not the time for games, but the officers in the back, the ones with clipboards and unreadable expressions, were already interested. One of them nodded. Let her try. Maya stepped onto the mat in front of nearly 40 soldiers. Whitfield outweighed her by 60 pounds and had a decade more experience. He smiled, the kind of smile that assumes the outcome before it happens. The first exchange lasted 4 seconds. Whitfield lunged, confident and heavy. Maya was not there when he arrived. She had already read his weight shift, already understood that a man who trains to overpower rarely trains to redirect. She used his own momentum, pivoted low, and put him on his back with a control hold so clean it looked rehearsed. The room did not laugh this time. Whitfield got up, jaw tight, and reset. The second round was longer, 4 full minutes of real effort, real strain, real respect building with every second. Maya did not win because she was stronger. She won because she had spent years studying leverage while some of the men around her were still relying on size. When it ended, she had him pinned again, calm, controlled, and completely in charge of the exchange. She helped him up. She did not gloat, she simply extended her hand. For a long moment, Whitfield just looked at her. Then he shook it, and in front of the entire unit, he said the words that mattered more than any medal. "I was wrong. You do not just belong here, you belong at the front of the room." The applause that followed was not performative. It was the sound of 40 people recalibrating what they thought they knew. That night, Maya sat outside the barracks, watching the sun drop behind the training field, and thought about her father. About hands that do not lie. About every room she had ever walked into where someone assumed her seat had been given to her instead of earned. She realized something simple and lasting. She had never needed to prove her strength to change anyone's mind. She only needed to let her preparation speak and let the moment do what moments do when you are ready for them. Word spread quickly after that, not just about the takedown, but about the way she carried herself afterward without bitterness, without needing to rub it in. Officers who witnessed it began requesting her for training demonstrations. Younger female recruits started asking to shadow her. Whitfield, to his credit, became one of her strongest advocates in the months that followed, telling anyone who would listen that he had underestimated a soldier who deserved better from the start. Maya never talked about that day looking for recognition. She talked about it because somewhere out there, another young woman was standing in a room being told to step back. And Maya wanted her to know that competence has no gender, that quiet preparation can outlast loud doubt, and that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply show up ready when everyone else assumes you are not. If this story moved you, that is exactly why we tell them. Every person who has ever been underestimated deserves a story like this one. If you believe that strength comes in every form, hit like, drop a comment telling us who in your life proved the doubters wrong, and subscribe to Soul Relief Stories for more true-to-life tales of courage, dignity, and quiet victory.